when he said that he has never aired his dirty linen in public. Am I being gaslit here?
I mean, this man's been literally sort of putting his trash out for cash for the last 5 years.
If he wants to be back in the UK and wants to come back more often, wants to do some work here, does that say something about the atmosphere in Montecito?
She returned to Instagram, exploded with this photograph of Harry.
It's the last time he had hair. That's when that photo was taken. It's very old.
It was an amazing visit. It went off better than clockwork.
And that photo of her and William was absolutely sort of box office.
My highlight, quite frankly, was the whole thing. The King did his job. He did it brilliantly.
Welcome to Royal Exclusive, where this week Prince Harry tries to rewrite history, claiming he has never aired his dirty linen in public, while claiming his conscience is clear. And the Princess of Wales and First Lady Melania were dressed to impress at the historic US state visit, while the King and President Trump hailed a special relationship between Britain and the United States. I'm The Sun's royal editor, Matt Wilkinson, and joining me in the studio to discuss all this and more, I'm pleased to welcome former Buckingham Palace spokesman, now royal commentator, Dickie Arbiter, and news commentator, Samara Gill. Right, we've had an incredibly busy week, and it seems ages ago now that Prince Harry gave this interview after his week in the UK. And I want to pick out one line that really stands out to me, Samara, when he said that he has never aired his dirty linen in public. Am I being gaslit here? Am I forgetting what happened with Spare? I mean, does this ring true with you, these words from Harry?
They ring untrue. I mean, this man's been literally sort of putting his trash out for cash for the last 5 years. He is someone who has completely ruined the royal family's legacy, or tried to. He hasn't. We've seen this week that he hasn't been able to do that. But let's not forget Spare. Him talking about losing his virginity behind a pub, his todger. I mean, this would all be counted as dirty laundry. You know, the Oprah interview, the Netflix special, even the Polo documentary, and then the constant leaks to People magazine and that we know about. I mean, this man has genuinely spent the last 5 years trashing and airing his dirty laundry out. So no, I don't believe it for a second, Matt.
Good. I'm glad I wasn't losing my mind, because when I saw those comments, I thought, what's just happened in the last couple of years? Dickie, were you surprised to see him talking this way? Harry, in this interview with The Guardian, he was talking about wanting to correct untruths. I mean,
you wouldn't know an untruth that slapped him in the face, because he's been delivering untruths since they walked out of the UK in 2020. It's a bit rich giving to The Guardian, a Republican newspaper. What is he trying to achieve? You know, the Guardian is so anti-monarchy, and yet there's Harry cozying up to The Guardian. I think the whole interview was a load of rubbish, and I think most people will recognise it just for that. I mean, the fact that he wants to concentrate on his dad over the next year, he should have been concentrating on his dad ever since he walked out in 2020, not just the next year. Is there some message he's trying to send? Well, he said, I've missed it.
He says, in the coming year, the focus really has to be on my dad. How do you think that's going to manifest itself? Does that mean that he will be coming over more often, spending more time with his father? Remember, he only got like half an hour with his dad when he was over here last time.
Well, he didn't get much, did he? I mean, there are various reports saying he got 50 minutes, 52 minutes, 55 minutes. How long he had, we really don't know. Did he get a cup of tea? We don't know. He did see his dad. How long his dad gave him, we don't know. Is he going to come back here more often over the coming year? Watch this space.
Yeah.
What's he going to achieve? Remember, though, there are the Invictus Games in 2027. So that's barely, 18 months, 2 years away. Maybe he is going to come across. What he's going to do, again, remains to be seen. I think best thing he can do is put up and shut up, because to have no conscience is a bit rich. He should have a conscience.
Well, this is the comment. He said that his conscience is clear. Are you surprised by that? I mean, he's never really shown any plans to apologise or to admit any failures,
no remorse whatsoever,
or to show any remorse for anything or just to admit that maybe I did this a little bit wrong. I mean, he said, clearly I haven't done anything wrong. My conscience is clear. Where do you stand with that, Samara?
Well, of course, his conscience is clear because he has this unshakable victim complex. So his conscience is clear, but he's been trashing everyone else in his path. And I think it's really interesting, his meeting with the king, because he went through the entrance to see his king for the general kind of public, not the general public, but, when CEOs...
It was a visitor's entrance.
Well, the visitor's entrance, and he had to get checked by security, and there are reasons for that. I mean, we know that the king is completely, and William, are very concerned about him leaking to the public any information from any meetings that they've had. And this comment about, I need to spend the next year with my dad, I mean... that could mean that the dad has only a year left to live, as you said, Matt. I mean, that's a leak in itself. That's a leak about his health.
We don't know that, but it could be Harry, seems to be kind of giving that impression. You could read that into Harry's statement. It's led to comments where people might start thinking, well, is Harry leaking kind of health information about his father? We're told that, his cancer treatment is continuing, he's living with cancer, and they're managing it really well. But I think that comment, really, the focus really has to be on my dad, has worried a few people that maybe he's been over-speaking a little bit. You're right.
Yeah, I think that they're very scared every time that they do meet what will get aired to the public, and I think that that's going to be a reoccurring theme. But I think Harry actually wants to come back into the fold for the simple reason of money. I think that there are financial issues looming on the gates of Montecito. They've got a very expensive lifestyle, him and Meghan, to upkeep, and those pots of jam aren't selling out on the website. So I know it sounds trivial, but I do think it's a bit of a craven pass at getting back in. And I think even that Guardian interview and then him jetting off to Ukraine. I mean, the man's been complaining about his security for the last few years and wanting us, the British taxpayer, to pay for it. It doesn't look good when he keeps jetting off to a war zone. It really doesn't. I mean, the optics of this have been shocking.
And when you think that jetting off in a private jet, and there's the man talking about the environment.
Yeah, precisely. Hypocrisy written all over it.
I was nervous about, I'm uncomfortable with the whole thing about that Guardian interview, because he had quite a successful week. Not a successful week, but he had a week that didn't really have any errors. He got what he wanted. He got the meeting with the king. He got lots and lots of coverage, and I think he was leaving feeling it was a successful trip, and I think he got a little bit high on the attention. And then he gave this interview which torpedoed everything that he had maybe achieved in the week before. So yeah, his conscience is clear. Doesn't air his dirty laundry in public, and a focus has to be on his dad. But also, I picked up in this interview that he now seems to love the UK. He said that he really enjoys the UK. He was happy to be back, and wants to spend more time in the UK in the future. Again, do we really believe him after everything that he's been saying in the last couple of years?
I'm not terribly sure we should believe him, but then if he wants to be back in the UK and wants to come back more often, wants to do some work here, does that say something about the atmosphere in Montecito?
Right.
Watch this space. But if you look at the engagements last week, that he had 4 days where he was kingpin. It was well managed, well stage managed. It was a big PR exercise. What I thought was crass was the fact that it was revealed by him how much money he had donated.
Oh,
the
yeah.
royals are always donating money. They don't say how much they donate. The organisations that are being given the money don't say how much. But yeah, Harry has got to embellish the whole thing. The week went well, but he's got to embellish it with how much he donated. Why?
This is the 1.1 million to children in need, wasn't it? It was the 1.1 million he announced in Nottingham.
I mean, there are so many people who give to children in need. They don't shout from the rooftops how much they've given. But Mr. Sussex had to do just that.
It was probably on the list of things they had to achieve throughout the week, because he got a lot of coverage for that as well. But you mentioned there about Montecito. So Meghan had stayed very silent during his trip to the UK, which is a bit of time ago, a while ago now. But on Harry's 41st birthday, which was on Monday, she returned to Instagram, exploded with this photograph of Harry. I think it was taken from about 15 to 20 years ago.
It was
Samara.
about 2009 he joined the Army Air Corps. He's in an Army Air Corps overalls.
Yeah.
So from that...
It's the last time he had hair. That's when that photo was taken. It's very old.
What did you make of that picture? Because a girlfriend of mine said that it struck her that it was almost a passive-aggressive way. She views it as I felt that way. I had an argument with my husband once, and I didn't want to send a really nice message. And she sees it as her perspective that Meghan was maybe having a little bit of a pop at Harry because she didn't choose the greatest picture, didn't choose a modern picture, didn't use a photo of them together, and it was just a very short little message. Or am I reading too much into that Instagram post?
I don't think you're reading too much into it at all. I think there's a lot to pick up on there. Even the caption itself was extremely bare. It was sort of, oh, hi, happy birthday. I mean, it's so random for all that they've been through together and, you know, their struggle that they proclaim to have, to sort of put such a barefaced, like, Instagram post. It didn't make any sense at all. And I do think that there is trouble brewing under the surface, because even in the Guardian interview, he only mentioned her basically barely. I think maybe she got one mention. And I just think that there's something there. She wouldn't have posted that for no reason. And I don't think, you know, he is very much her spare in that relationship. And I think she was getting very upset over there in Montecito, seeing him get all the coverage, be the glittering royal. She had to take focus away from him by posting that.
You know, if you're going to do a birthday picture, then it's a birthday picture with Harry and the kids. That's a birthday picture. If everything is all rosy in Montecito, which, as Samara says, big question mark over, is it rosy?
Are the roses in the garden of the Montecito?
Oh, the petals, you know, all those petals that are disappearing off the roses going on to food.
Now, obviously, Harry, back in the past, that he was, you know, the visitor from America that came over, spent, you know, grabbed all the headlines, spent a lot of time in the UK and got to meet the King. The King had another special American visitor, well, two special American visitors, the President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania. Dickie, you, in your time, have had dozens of state visits, incoming and outgoing abroad, and, you know, state visits coming into the UK. I was in Windsor for quite a long time, very long days down there reporting on Trump and Melania's visit. How do you think it went? Was it a successful trip? Looking at everything that happened, from the state banquet to the carriage ride, where do you stand on Trump's visit?
It was so successful, it's gone off the charts. I mean, what you had in that state visit has never happened for an American president before. You had a carriage drive, never happened before. All right, it was in a sanitised area of the castle on the estate, so it was controllable, but it has never happened before. You had a retreat ceremony, never happened before. A fly past, never happened before. Unfortunately, the F-35s of the RAF and the USF couldn't fly because of bad weather, but there were still the red arrows, never happened before. Every other thing were set pieces. What you did have were sort of side visits. Normally on a state visit, when the visitor is in at Buckingham Palace or even Windsor Castle, they go to Downing Street, they go to the Houses of Parliament, they go to Westminster Abbey to lay a wreath on the tomb of the unknown warrior. President Trump laid a wreath on the tomb of late Queen Elizabeth II. He listened to the choir. He interacted with the choristers. That's something that's never happened before. So there were a lot of firsts on that. Trump went away a very, very happy boy. He had all his toys in the pram. He didn't throw anything out. He was on his best behaviour. He joked with the King. I mean, it was amazing how tactile the two men were.
They seem to get on, right?
They got on so well. I mean, they got on when he was here in 2019, when they met at Clarence House. But they got on extremely well, and they were joking. Even at the time of having inspected the Guard of Honour, the King warns Mr. Trump to be careful of the sword as the Guard commander was saluting his departure. It was an amazing visit. And you mentioned Melania, you mentioned the Princess of Wales. They were stunning. They stood out. They were absolutely stunning. But it went off better than clockwork, better than anybody could have imagined, because there were all sorts of doubts about how it would work, given Mr. Trump's the way he interacts with people. I mean, even yesterday's news conference at Chequers, he and Sir Keir got on extremely well. It shows that Sir Keir is good on foreign affairs. He's not very good on domestic affairs, but the two men actually interacted with each other.
I thought King and we'll get on to Melania and Catherine in a bit, because I thought that relationship was wonderful. But I thought the King and Trump, watching them in person and seeing them, as you say, just natural and just how important is it that the King and Trump got on? And I'll just talk about the banquet just briefly. Trump, when he was giving his speech, sitting next to the King, he was saying that the King has epitomised the fortitude, nobility and spirit of the British people. There was a proper love in there between King and the President.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're so similar in some ways, and I think that there was a real, to compare and contrast the first state visit with the Queen. He had admiration for the Queen. He looked up to her, but I feel like with this visit with the King, it was much more of a pal relationship and something that could really be built upon. And I think this is really Britain at its best when you see these visits happen. And I think it has been really good to show off our nation like that to Trump. And I think for diplomatic relations, it couldn't have gone better, as you said, Dickie. So I think, I just think that with them and that relationship, I think it will continue. But he looked forward to his relationship that he will have with William as well in the future, which was really interesting.
Well, that was key. So William and Catherine had a little private cup of tea, I think. Or I don't know if it was a private tea, but they had a private moment after lunch. And yeah, Trump was gushing about William and Catherine. I think he'd called Catherine radiant and beautiful and looking healthy. But I just want to pick up, we're talking about diplomacy. I just want to pick up, when we were listening to the speech, was just one element, and I want to get your thoughts on this. When Donald Trump turned to William and said it's really amazing, and he said, His Majesty has also raised a remarkable son in His Royal Highness Prince of Wales. Didn't mention Harry.
Yeah.
Are we reading too much into that?
I don't think you should read too much into that. I mean, William was there. William is the heir to the throne. He knows William. He doesn't know Harry, hasn't met Harry, but he knows William. He's met William on several occasions. So, yes, he was referring to William as a remarkable son because he is the man who is eventually going to be our sovereign. Later rather than sooner. But I don't think we should read too much into Trump ignoring Harry. Harry wasn't on the radar as far as the state visit is concerned.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think he completely scrubbed Harry's name out of the history books. I do think when he put that intonation, son, he didn't say sons. That was a very sort of solid, no, this is who I prefer. And we know his hatred for Harry and Meghan. He's spoken about that very publicly. So I do think it was on purpose. And honestly, Trump's not wrong.
I mean, how was it important for, I suppose, the King? He's incredibly, he's ticking off a lot of firsts. He's ticking a lot of events, since he's become, since his coronation. How important do you think it was for him personally to see that state visit go off so successfully, Dickie?
He saw it important, not just for himself, but for the country and for the government. It's very important that state visits work absolutely like clockwork. If you can pull out the stops and create a few firsts, then so much the better. It's the showcase of the United Kingdom. Governments come and go. Sovereigns don't very often. I mean, late Queen Elizabeth was on the throne for 70 years. King Charles III hopefully will be on the throne for perhaps 2 decades, maybe longer. We don't know. But it's very important that things like that go like clockwork because they are the showcase of the United Kingdom and send a leader away happy, and they're going to negotiate deals with the respective government, head of government, in this case, Keir Starmer.
But before we move on, because I want to talk about Catherine and Melania a little bit, about their trip out into the countryside with the scouts. But I just want to ask you, because you must have been involved in so many incoming and outgoing state visits. Can you just give a little bit of kind of insider kind of details about how are they stressful? Are there lots of kind of input from foreign governments? Because there's little intricate parts that I noticed in this one where after dinner there were certain drinks that were served. I believe there was a port.
There was a port from 1945
marking that he was the 45th and 47th president, but also I think a whiskey that was brewed or made, distilled in the date of his mother.
1912, which reflected the birth of his mother.
So when you were arranging these things, Dickie, when you were involved in your previous state visits, how important are these kind of little intricacies for diplomacy?
It's very important to get the little details right. There is a blueprint for state visits. When they happen in London, there's a meet and greet on Horse Guards Parade, carriage procession to Buckingham Palace, a lunch for the head of state and the suite, and Then the head of state would go off normally to Westminster Abbey to lay a wreath on the tomb of the unknown warrior, visit the heir to the throne. In case of the last visit, he visited Charles at Clarence House. In the past, the head of state would visit late Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. There is a set pattern. But when you've got something like Trump, you want to do something a little bit extra special. And those little things that you mentioned, like the port, 1945, reflecting his first term of office in 2017. When you look at the cognac from 1912, the birth of his mother, which reflected that. They're just the little things, and there are people in Buckingham Palace who think about these little things. What can we do extra special? It's like the gifts. It's like the Royal Collection putting out an exhibition relating to that country. There is a blueprint, and when they know who the visitor is going to be, the whole thing goes into action. The whole team go into action.
How stressful is it?
Oh, it's not stressful.
No.
You know, if you do stress, you're liable.
He's a pro.
No, if you do stress, you're liable to cock it up. So the idea is not to. The idea is to let it run smoothly. And because you've done these things so often, you're just moving the goalposts in terms of who the visitor is. You know, if it's like a few years ago, while Queen Elizabeth was still alive, you had Queen Margrethe of Denmark. She's family, so it was a slightly different type of visit, but it was still a state visit. And very occasion you get things like that. Then you get things like Ceausescu of Romania, the tyrant, and the Queen couldn't stand him, but she had to invite him because the government said, we want Ceausescu because we want to sell them aeroplanes. He didn't sell them aeroplanes, and the whole thing failed. And one day the Queen was out walking the corgis in the garden at Buckingham Palace, and out come the Ceausescus with their dog that they'd smuggled into the country, and the poor woman had to hide behind a bush till they'd gone past and to go back into the palace. So occasionally you get some really bad eggs coming to the country, but it's the government that decide who comes, not the sovereign.
So they don't always go as smoothly as this one with Donald Trump.
Well, they do go smoothly. Generally, the sort of whole ceremonial part goes smoothly. State banquet, state procession does go smoothly. It's the sort of domestic bits, again, like Ceausescu walking his dog in the garden, in the Queen's garden, and she didn't like that.
Amazing. Now, Samara, am I right to believe that your outfit this week? Because it reminds me of both Melania and the Princess of Wales's outfits when they went to Frogmore Gardens just this week. Is this homage to the style icons that we've seen this week?
Homage put very loosely, yes. As I said, I'm pretty much like a cheap rip-off this week of them, but I did absolutely love their outfits, and we saw it on the front page of The Sun as well. They were fabulous together. I mean, I never thought about the optics of seeing them, but they were perfectly coordinated. You know, they were out there and they were showing the brilliance of both the US and the UK in such a beautiful way. I just thought that it was fantastic. I couldn't have thought of a better. I mean, it was one of the standout moments, strangely, of the trip in my mind. I mean, it really, really showed the two ladies at the helm of these great countries.
I thought it was really well managed because you had all the pomp and ceremony, you had the state banquet, which we've been talking about, the carriage rides, and then we had the kind of more human moment where the wives were dressed down. And it wasn't just Catherine. Queen Camilla took Melania to look at the doll's house, and Queen Camilla's got a book that she's written, this miniature little book that lots of authors had written them for the doll's house, and she's written a book in there. And it was a real kind of special moment, a human moment between the women, the power maybe behind these thrones. That
doll's house is amazing. They get a lot of visitors to it. I don't think many Brits go. It was made in between 1921 and 1924, went on display in 1925. 1,500 craftsmen put it together. It has running water. It has a working lift, It has working lights, and every single book in it, that big, is a replica of a real book. So real pages, real text, and every year the library is updated with modern books. In fact, there's a cookery book by Tom Parker Bowles in there at the moment. So it is a unique piece of artistry given by the people of Great Britain for the work that Queen Mary did in the First World War.
It is astonishing. I've been there a couple of times as a tourist, actually, and gone in and looked at that.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, in many ways, this state visit was not just a showcase of the King and Queen and soft power, but also Windsor Castle. Windsor
Yes.
Castle and St George's Chapel looked absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and St George's Hall.
Yeah, and St George's Hall for
St George's Hall since the rebuild when it was finished in 1997. It's a wow moment when you first go in, and laid out with this long table, 47-metre long table, seats 160 guests. It really is a wow moment when you go in there and see it.
Just returning to First Lady Melania and the Princess of Wales, did it strike you that they did genuinely seem to be getting on? I mean, there was more smiles from Melania in that short trip than anything we saw on the Wednesday when she was doing all the pomp and ceremony. She seemed to be at home with Kate. There seemed to be a burgeoning friendship there.
I think Catherine can put anyone at ease. I mean, you can see that. They sat her next to Trump at the state dinner because of that. She is their biggest asset, and she really does continue to be. I think Melania, she's an interesting character. There's quite a few cultural differences there, and Catherine was able to smooth them over so easily. And I think that you're right. I think she was at ease in that situation. And I think that, we've not seen Catherine look so healthy and so well, as Trump alluded to in his speech, for a long time. And I think it's really, really reassuring for the nation to, first of all, she looked beautiful at the dinner. I mean, that photo of her and William was absolutely sort of box office. But then, yes, to see her, up and ready the next day in the garden with Melania, it's just nice to see her back in the game.
What was your highlight? What was your highlight of the... When we talk about the fashion and stuff like that, I mean, it's incredible outfits.
It was absolutely that photo of William and Catherine. That was sort of our future king and queen. I mean, I really, when I saw that, it was the wow moment. I mean, I don't know about you, but you probably have a much more bolshy favourite moment. But yeah, for me, I love all the pomp and glamour of it all. I mean, yeah. It was actually that photo, weirdly. It wasn't anything to do with the king or Trump.
No, that's absolutely fine. I mean, that's the thing about these state visits. There are just so many elements that are so engrossing in so many different ways to different people, and we all pick up certain elements. My highlight was St George's Chapel. I was with Donald Trump when he was there with the late Queen. He was a big fan, as he would describe, of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. And he spent 10 minutes laying a wreath privately. We weren't allowed. And then he had a little tour through St George's Chapel, and he seemed in awe of it. He actually seemed so impressed with the history of the UK. What was your highlight, Dickie?
My highlight, quite frankly, was the whole thing. But what we've got to remind ourselves in that this is a state visit, the President of the United States. He'll be gone in just over 4 years. So we have to capitalise on the goodness that came out of it and has come out of this state visit before the next incumbent arrives. We don't know. And that is up to governments to capitalise on it. The King did his job. He did it brilliantly. I mean, given that he is still undertaking treatment for a cancer, he's been working from one end of the day to the next. I mean, the man's got energy. When I worked for him, he worked from one end of the day to the next. He'd sometimes fall asleep at his desk at night. I'd get a phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning. Can you do it? Did I wake you? No, of course you didn't, you one-liners.
Oh my goodness.
But that's the sort of man he is, and he's still like that. I think he's cut down on working so late into the night because Camilla's made sure of that. But he has pulled out all stops, and a lot of people, and he's coming up to, 77?
I think 77 this year.
Yeah, he's going to be 77 in November. He is working so energetically, and a lot of people could take heart from that and think, well, why aren't I doing that? Because the man's got energy, even with treatment for cancer.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget, it's the second one he's hosted this year as well. We had Macron's earlier this year, so
yes.
It's like full of energy. Now, I just wanted to touch on the Duchess of Kent. So, literally a day before the huge state visit, or the day that the president arrived, all the rules are out in force at the Duchess of Kent's funeral. There hasn't been, I don't think there's been much said or talked about or written about the Duchess of Kent than there should be. She's quite an interesting character, Dickie. I mean, she converted to Catholicism. She stepped down as a working royal and became a teacher. And all the rules were out in force for the funeral at Westminster Cathedral this week. Do you have any fond memories of the Duchess of Kent in your time?
She was very popular within the family. She was very talented. She was a musician. She gave a lot of her time to the arts. And when she dropped out of being a working member of the royal family, she became a music teacher. She taught in a primary school. She taught music. She was very much involved with orchestras. She was an accomplished musician herself. But she probably felt that she had done her time and she wanted to do something else, which is when she converted to Catholicism. Interesting that Pope Leo sent a message of condolence and that his prayers were with the royal family. That's how high in esteem that she was held. But I think she got, I won't say tired of marriage. My connection with her really was when her daughter got married at St George's Chapel in the late 1990s. But she was a very compassionate person. She was good with her charities. Her charities loved her, and she gave her all. But she decided to change course. She decided to drop out. She decided that she was going to be a music teacher, and that's what she did. She wasn't Your Royal Highness. She wasn't Duchess of Kent. She was Mrs. Kent, and that said a lot about the lady.
Not many people have stepped down as working royals and then succeeded. You know, I'm talking about, recent history, Prince Andrew or Meghan and Harry and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. She was totally a pioneer. I mean, it would have been completely unheard of to do what she did at that time. And I think that that's how her, the sort of grace that she did it with and how tastefully she did do it. Harry and Meghan could learn a few things from that because, she's managed to sort of live on with an amazing legacy and not have had to trash the family in the way of pursuing her own life and how she wanted to live it. So I think it's a real testament to the stoicism of how it could be for some.
And how it should be.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because she was front and centre every Wimbledon. I mean, people remember her. She was every Wimbledon, and then didn't seem to want to crave the attention anymore. That's what I found impressive.
She was never an attention seeker. Remember, she was a commoner, and she married into the royal family. All right, somebody slightly lower down in the royal food chain, but she gave her all in the early days. She had children, and what is very sad is that the son and the daughter-in-law have now separated and heading for the divorce courts, which is a great pity. But she was a terrific lady, and she was very much loved by the rest of the royal family, which is why there was such a tremendous turnout.
Well, let's talk about the members of the royal family that were there. I mean, I was there standing, watching. There was lots of photographers and press were watching it, but we had an amazing opportunity at the end when all the members of the royal family came up into the steps. Her coffin was being laid into the state hearse, which was quite an honour, and the Duke of Kent looked utterly crestfallen. But behind, did you notice, while all this was going on, Prince Andrew was there trying to speak to Prince William. Prince William was trying to ignore him. Sarah Ferguson was there.
Did a pretty good job, actually.
Yeah. What did you think of that? I mean, it seemed to me that Andrew was almost trying to be seen. Should he have been there for a start? Well,
firstly, he should have been there because he's family. And it was a family member who had passed, so that was right. But anybody with a smidgen of common sense would know that everything that has gone before, you would keep a low profile. He doesn't know the meaning of keeping a low profile. It's the same as his ex-wife. Both of them should have gone in on a side entrance and left on a side entrance.
Yeah.
I think it was really interesting. I mean, even Andrew's place within the family, obviously he wasn't at the state banquet or anything like that. But you think about the last state visit, he was hauled out and he was brought in front of Trump because they did know each other, and that was a whole relationship there. So it's such a contrast that he's been completely banished, rightly so, from all these events.
Yeah.
But just a couple years ago, he was sort of the unifying factor between them.
Well, I think with all the news recently of Epstein and emails and court documents, I think it was probably wise to keep Andrew away from Trump.
Yeah, he should have not
We're
have been
talking about
there.
State visit diplomacy. Wow, that would be bombshells.
Even just last week with the Mandelson, I mean, not that it's a royal show, but, having to have our ambassador sacked the week before because of that Epstein stuff, it continues to linger.
I thought it was very interesting how how Trump was asked about the sacking of Middleton at the press conference yesterday, and he flicked the answer to Starmer.
He's a smooth operator. I don't know him, he said. Yeah, I don't know the ambassador of the...
But he did it very calmly with a smile on his face. He said, perhaps there's something for you.
Yeah, correct. You can't outsmart the Donald.
It reminds me of Harry talking about his truths when we started this show this week. We were talking about the things that he remembers. Trump kind of followed that same blueprint, but he doesn't remember Mandelson. Just quickly on Prince Andrew and William. I mean, did you feel a little bit sorry for William having to stand on those steps? Andrew desperately trying to talk to him. William desperately trying not to be seen to talking to Andrew with everybody watching on with their cameras.
Well, it's like that annoying uncle that you want nothing to do with. I mean, that is really the family dynamic there. And I do agree with you. I think William's looking forward. I think that there's a lot of changes that he can already see that he will want to make when he eventually becomes king. And Andrew's not included in any of them, in my opinion. So I do think it is awkward. I think that, Andrew's probably strategically trying to chat to him, trying to get the photo up, trying to sort of show, yes, I'm back in with the fold. I mean, that's the central member there. But William won't have any of it, and I'm quite impressed by the way that he does want to sort of run his future. It does show a lot of strength of character, in my opinion.
We've all been at weddings and funerals, and you're trapped with a family member that you just don't want to talk to, and that's what it. We can all associate with that.
That's what it comes down to.
Right, guys, we just got a bit of time for our quick-fire questions. So take a deep breath. I want your best answers to these, please. And I might even chip in if I've got time. Right, following Meghan's throwback birthday photo of Prince Harry, what is your favourite picture of Prince Harry?
Well, mine is Prince Harry poking his tongue out at the media outside Ludgrove School in Notting Hill Gate. The media, in order to get a picture, would stick their tongues out and make funny faces. And here he was, a 3-year-old, in the car with his mum and with his face pressed up against the car window with his tongue hanging out. And yet, the following year, Trooping the Colour, he did the same again on the Buckingham Palace balcony. Photographers are there. Oh, those are the people I stick my tongue out to. And he's been doing it ever since. Yeah.
It's not a photo for me, but I miss the banter of him and Harry when they used to live together and when they were training. I was watching just before I came, them in their training outfits, and I miss that banter that they used to have. They really used to take the mick out of each other, but in such a brilliant way. And watching those interviews from, I guess now like 10, 15 years ago, those were the days. So
that's just forgotten history. That's just gone history.
Yeah,
now.
It really
that's
is.
in the archive.
When I was watching them, I was like, how? Now they couldn't even be in a room together, probably, if they tried.
I think she should have put up the picture where he was playing naked billiards in Las Vegas. I thought maybe that would have been if you're going to do a throwback picture, that's the most famous throwback picture of. Or there are others actually. There's Harry when he dressed up as a Nazi.
Yeah, move on.
We'll move on from that one. But I thought maybe the billiards picture would have been a little bit more fun. We'll see that again. Right. Melania Trump made headlines and went viral for her interesting choice of hat on arrival in Windsor. But what is the best royal headwear you've ever seen?
I mean, at William and Catherine's wedding, there was so many options to choose from. We don't forget Victoria Beckham's headwear, Eugenie, Beatrice. I mean, they all had fantastic. I couldn't pick. I feel like that whole wedding was like some sort of headwear show with the wedding on the side.
I thought was absolutely incredible, wasn't it?
I did love that. Yeah, I have to say. I know it was controversial, but yeah.
I have two favourites. One is Princess of Wales. Actually, they're both Princesses of Wales. One is Catherine at the after the St George's Chapel interment of the late Queen in that wonderful black hat and that just looking straight at the camera. And Diana did exactly the same in 1988 in Paris at the Arc de Triomphe when it was marking the 70th anniversary of the end of the First World War. And she looked again straight at the cameras. She had a wonderful sort of hunting type hat on with the veil. The worst hat, I've got to mention the worst hat.
Okay, worst.
Princess Beatrice, 2011, William and Catherine's wedding.
You think?
That monstrosity.
Do you think? I've got affection for it.
Yeah, me too.
I really do. We were just talking about it. I've got quite affectionate for that. I thought it was just so striking and weird that it's
totally weird.
But you remember it. That's the thing. She knew it.
It was awful, though, wasn't it?
that would be the hat to divide all
I
conversations.
remember first seeing it, I thought, wow, and then I've gradually liked it over time. I quite liked the Princess of Wales's at the coronation. I think she had, I don't know how to describe it, it was like a laurel wreath.
Yes.
The silk, I thought that was pretty.
brilliant.
That was very pretty.
Yeah.
Right, now, the King made jokes during his address at the state banquet with Trump. Well, he made one about golf, didn't he? He made a joke about golf. Who do you think is the funniest or best humoured royal?
Well, the King's got to be the funniest because he does have a terrific sense of humour, as does Camilla, and this is why they spend so much time when they're out and about giggling together, because they see the funny side of things. You're probably too young to remember the Goon Show, which was a show way back in the distant past with Harry Seacombe, Spike Milligan, and it was very, very funny, and Charles is a fan of them. It's zany humour. I think the closest you get to it probably today or yesterday was 40 Towers. It's that sort of humour. But yeah, Charles does see the funny side of things, and he made a point of seeing the funny side when he Richard Nixon, Tricky Dickie, tried to pair him off with his daughter Tricia.
What about that? Yeah.
Charles was only 21 at the time, so it wasn't in the marriage market. And George W. Bush tried to do it again when he was in the White House with one of his twin daughters.
He's quite self-depreciating, isn't it? He often kind of pokes fun at himself in some
Yes,
ways,
he's very self-deprecating. And he does poke fun at himself. But you mentioned the golf. He mentioned golf, suggesting to Trump that we got the best soil for golf courses.
Trump would know. Funniest royal, Samara?
I've got to say, William, I mean, that man really can make a joke. And I think that's one of his biggest sort of like assets as a future king, is that he can talk to the people and put people at ease. I mean, I remember when he went on a podcast about a year or two ago, and they go, William, welcome to the show, and he's like, it's your majesty, thank you. It's like, no, I'm joking. Like, and he really does sort of, he's able, that's his in with most people, is through jokes and banter. And yes, he is, the future king, but he's able to really be grounded in his humor. So I don't know, I love, Prince William. He's hilarious. He doesn't get enough credit for it. Harry's always like, compared to Diana, I think William's much more that.
Yeah, very good point. I always find Camilla giggling a lot. I've been on trips and she always gets the fit of the giggles. I think she
sees the funny side of things.
She sees the funny side of life a lot. There's been trips we were in Samoa last year and she just couldn't stop giggling at the water that was blowing onto reporters and stuff like that. So I think she was, it was blowing off there was a heavy rain that was blowing off the roof onto loads of journalists, and she just couldn't stop giggling. Right, well, we'll finish on a giggle, we'll finish on a laugh. So thanks very much, guys. We've been through a lot. I've really enjoyed it. Right, that's all we have time for on this week's Royal Exclusive. Thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments as we do read them. And don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. We'll see you next week.